Welcome to the Happy Soul Podcast. My name is Melissa, and this is Sammi. We are diving deep into conversations that connect and inspire. Stories of resilience, triumph, and transformation. Stories that take us to the heart of human connection. Please note that opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect those of this podcast. Please listen with your kindness and an open mind. Each story shared is authentic and vulnerable. Let's embrace our differences with empathy, knowing every voice enriches us. Together, let's cultivate a community of respect and curiosity. Thank you for listening. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to be inspired.
Merry Christmas, Sammi.
Merry Christmas. Welcome to the Happy Soul Podcast, everybody. We are here. It is not Christmas anymore. It is, when you hear this, it's going to be at least January 16th of 2025. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrated or didn't celebrate. Solstice.
Yes.
Happy all those things. Happy New Year.
All those things. I love winter solstice. I love it. I have a very hard time celebrating summer solstice because it means the days are starting to get shorter. But winter solstice, I'm like, yeah.
Because the days are getting longer again.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's fair.
I used to, when I was a teenager, we used to celebrate summer solstice. We'd go, we'd sneak to the top of Big Rock. We'd sneak and drink at the top of Big Rock.
On summer solstice?
That? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we'd go hang out at summer solstice.
That's super
Sorry,
fun.
Mom.
You've done worse things. It's fine. We all have.
That's true. She knows that. Anyways, hi. Sorry. I kind of took that.
No.
What were you going to say?
Good. Nothing. I was just saying, well, anybody who's listening, we don't really have a plan for today. We just wanted to jump in, have a quick hello, happy new year, as we said, and chat at you, ramble at you. We haven't actually really talked, like, truthfully, this time we haven't actually really talked to each other, like, since the beginning of December. Melissa's household was super sick, and then, so we didn't talk really, and other than, like, you alive over there? You okay? That was about it. And then we rolled right into Christmas busyness with families, and other than quick Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, are you alive? Today was the first time we actually really spoke to each other. So, and it was very quick messages of like, are we recording tonight? We're recording. All right, let's record tonight. So we haven't chatted, but we have no plan.
I missed you.
Yeah, it's been a while. Okay, I'm going to say this because it's one of those things where like, when you don't talk to someone in a while and then they like want to hang out and you're like, yeah, I don't know. Like, is it inconvenient? I don't know if I want to. And then you hang out with the person. You're like, oh, I do really like you. That's what I do. Like, I know I like you. I know I love you. But sometimes when it's been a while, you're like,
totally.
It's fine. And it's fine if we wait till tomorrow. But then when you talk, you're like, oh, I'm really glad we did it today.
That's totally true. That's totally true. And it has been a long time. That like, oh my gosh, that took us out. I'm pretty sure we had COVID because like it was like I think the kids missed 3 weeks of school before the last week we went to Christmas holidays. So like they missed and like missing hockey, missing everything. We like literally just hunkered down in this house.
Aww.
It was wild. And I'm not complaining. Like, you know, it just took us out and like what we got to, I did crafts with them that I never would have done otherwise. It completely threw off the whole, like, you know how this house is with Christmas, as I'm like in my Christmas onesie with like the Griswolds right now. But like, it kind of threw off the get ready for Christmas train. And so we were doing stuff right to the very last, like Christmas Eve. I think we put outdoor Christmas lights on the house on Christmas Eve.
Oh my gosh.
Well, may as well do it now. Why not?
I for sure would have been like, why bother?
I was at that point. I actually was at that point. Doug came in. He's like, let's put lights on in the house. And the kids were so excited. And I was like, okay, well, this actually. And then there were some decorations and stuff. Like we have this little Christmas town. And I was already at the point where I was like, not happening this year. And then he was like, go get the town. We got to do it. And it actually was really cool. Like the kids were involved and it was actually, yeah. It all worked out. It was all beautiful, but
kids change it because you see their excitement and you're like, okay, it was worth it just for this moment. We skimped out on lights this year. I didn't do as many Christmas lights as I usually did. Because usually I throw them up before it gets really cold.
Yeah.
But I don't turn them on. I just put them up.
Did you miss the boat?
I missed the boat.
That's what I did too.
And I was like, it kept being cold, and then December came, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wrap this pole and string it and wrap that one, and we'll call it a day. That's good enough for me.
Totally. Ours is super trashy. And we're next door. I mean, my neighbors, Hallmark. Like their house is perfect. Like I don't know. We're looking over and Doug's like, how do they get the lights so tight across there? Like, how does he even do that? But like the perfect, like they've got the wreaths in each window and the lights are perfectly like it's perfect. And we're just like, it's not perfect. Full
I like
Griswold.
I like the chaos because like I walk into people's houses who are really beautifully decorated for Christmas, which yours typically is. Yours is like a mix of like Hallmark pretty Christmas decorations and like decorated for kids. Yours is a mix. And like some people's houses are just beautifully decorated, like Hallmark movie, beautiful Christmas decorations. And I love that look. My house is kids put this shit places, and that's how it is. And I also love that because I don't care enough to figure out number one, what I need to buy to put where and how to properly make it look like a Hallmark thing. And the kids just get jacked to explode it. And so my house is like the living room was like, Christmas threw up in here and it's here for right now. So
Have you seen that reel that went around, that TikTok that went around?
no.
And it's like he sounds like he's English. He's got an accent. He sounds like he's English. And he says something about like people whose houses are perfect. He's like, Christmas is supposed to be gaudy. It's supposed to look like Christmas threw up all over the place in your house. That's what it's
Mm.
supposed to look.
Oh, that's how mine looks. That's
You're
how
right.
mine looks.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I have both. I have both things going on. I keep saying like the thing with all these trees is like we're kind of like Doug has always had this vision of a Christmas tree forest.
Mhm.
I have always wanted my house to look like Hallmark, and so the combination is kind of like Hallmark meets Griswold, which more leaning in that direction. But it's lots of
It's
fun.
great.
I love it. I
It's
don't know if we've talked about this, and I find it super fascinating.
okay.
I feel like we should have Zora for this chat, but I find this super interesting. I don't know if we talked about it before, but I read that so the chemical that goes through our body for excitement and fear is the same chemical. And as we grow to be adults, we just learn how to distinguish those two feelings, but it's the exact same chemical composition. So that is why kids go bananas in great big events. That's why they say to not like hype up great big things like Christmas, Easter, those kinds of things. Because when you do that, when you're like, Santa's coming, it's the same thing going through their body as if they were scared. And they don't know what to do with it. So it comes out in this like wild behavior sometimes. And then we're like, you're supposed to be excited. What is going on? It's supposed to be the greatest time of the whole year. And you're acting like a wild hyena. And it's like, well, yeah, because they've got this thing going through their body that's like, they don't know what to do with it. So
That
that's why they say kids start acting out during the holidays.
you know what's interesting is I don't think my kids acted out at all during the holidays. They were all really good, but
And it's always
it's just like
after,
it's just the after like
after
they've
crash.
had no sleep. There's been high excitement, and they're
Yep.
catching up on sleep. And then after you catch up, you have that day where you're like, I think that was today.
Yep.
Anyways, that's interesting you say that because today I was literally having a conversation and we were talking about that exact thing about there's all this parenting advice out there that talks about like preparing your kids for upcoming things and helping them understand what to expect and all this kind of stuff, which I don't disagree with. But like in terms of like exciting things coming up, like that kind of stuff, we were both saying how neither one of us do that. Like we don't tell them to like the day before or the day of when something is happening because we find that it does the reverse is they've worked it up too much in their brain and they're like upset about it instead of excited about it. And
Mhm.
I've heard that before about like the things being the same, but I never put that together with like Christmas and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
you're totally right. I think
Isn't that fascinating?
when you watch kids, if you watch someone go like, "Is Santa coming? Do you know that Santa's coming?" and kids look at them like, "Yeah," and
Yeah.
they're afraid, right? They're not like excited. And whereas if you're just like, "Hey, look, Santa's here," they're more
Hmm.
like,
Right?
I find
Yeah.
not always. There's still the kids that are actually legit afraid. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's interesting that you bring
Hmm.
that up. Yeah.
It's
hmm
cool.
I
Yeah,
don't
mine are
hype.
starting to do that crash too, and they're at each other. Like
Uh,
they're they're fighting with each other. It's freaking me. I hate it when they fight with each other because I'm just like, just love each other. I sound like such a hippie mom. Like, I'm kind of excited to hear the things that they'll remember their mom saying. Like when they're adults, they're gonna be like, you know,
What
like
sayings your
mom's
mom
line
said
is
all the
gonna be
time?
like, use your kindness.
It's a good. You know what? That is a lot better saying than some of the ones I could come up with. Use your kindness. It's better than some things I heard.
Oh, I used them all today.
You're not broken, bleeding, or falling apart. It's fine. Get over it. That's what I remember being told.
Oh man.
Um,
Anyways,
with
sorry, keep
No,
going.
no, I was just gonna say with it's interesting too because there's someone else I was talking to over the holidays and they were talking about how they told their kids about this thing that's coming up and it's like 2 weeks away. And they were
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I was telling my kids about this thing that's happening because they're doing this in 2 weeks." And I was like, I didn't say this, but in my head I was like, "You tell your kids about things that are happening that far in advance?"
That's asking for
I
something
was
to happen.
Yeah, and I'm not judging it. I don't mean that in like they shouldn't. I just mean like for me, like I don't, and it's not like people will come and say to my kids like, "Oh, were you coming to do this next weekend?" And I'm like, "Oh, I haven't even told the kids that they're going to do that next weekend." Because I tell them like 2 or 3 days, like probably 1 or 2 days before it's going to happen, because then there's not like this like first off, it honestly started because to save me, I didn't want the whole like, "When are we doing this? When are we doing this? How many
Mhm.
days till we do this? When are we doing this?" I didn't want that, so I just like wait. That's a lot of
Mhm.
it. Um, and like I do have a calendar now where I'll like write stuff is happening and so they can see physically, but it's not like I haven't hyped it up. It's just like a thing
Mhm.
on the calendar. And if I do tell them things are happening, I'm not like in advance, I'm not like, "Oh my gosh, this is happening. It's so exciting." I'm like, "Hey, in like 2 weeks, you're gonna go do this."
That's good.
Great.
I have struggled to do that. I have a hard because you know how I am. I'm like the hype girl. And so I know that I need to curb that and I struggle to do it, but I do see it works better to do that because when I do that, it's so much better. And I'm like, I mean, if I tell them that something's going to happen 2 weeks in advance, we're all going to get COVID or something like that.
Hmm.
We all get sick and then we have to not do it
Yeah.
or something like that. Last time we went to Chantel's, I didn't tell them till we were in the car and I just surprised them with it. I didn't even tell them. I packed all the bags, put the bags in the car, picked them up from school and said, guess what? We're going somewhere fun. You want to know where it is? I was like, I am not chancing the disappointment that's going to happen if we get sick
Yeah,
or
like
something happens. I
mhm.
cannot have that disappointment.
Yeah,
It's
like
like,
we're going,
no.
well, I say we're going skiing. I snowboard, but we're going skiing
Oh,
tomorrow.
cool.
And I didn't tell the kid they're spending the day with their aunt and uncle and their nona, and I didn't tell the kids until yesterday, and only because it kind of came up in a conversation with someone else. And I was like, "Oh yeah, you guys are gonna hang out with Nona and Zia and your uncle on Monday." And they were like, "Yeah, is Will gonna be there?" And I was like, "Yeah, he is." And so that's interesting. That thanks for bringing that up. That's an interesting
Mhm.
thing to think about.
I
Whenever
think
we
about
have these rants, I wonder who's gonna listen and who's like, "Turn it off, snooze, stop talking."
I don't care. I'm having
Ah,
fun.
snooze. Yeah, me too. Listen if you want to. Actually, that's I have like I had all these conversations. Well, no, I had a bunch. I mean, obviously, I had a lot of conversations over the course of the holidays, but
Mhm.
there was like a couple that I had that I was like, "Ooh, these would be good to talk about." And
Oh, tell me.
one of them isn't one that I texted you on. Is a different one. I was with a friend and um he was asking how the podcast was going and stuff and I said a few things. I was like, "This is really good. I really love it." I was like, "I'm just really trying to figure out how to make it profitable." And in a long conversation we talked about all of that a bit and then he said, "Well, is it growing doing what you're doing?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." I said like the only numbers I watch is our Instagram numbers. Like I watch our plays on
Mhm.
Spotify, but like when people are like, "I have 400,000 downloads," I'm like, "I actually don't know how to find information." So and then so I said, "Well, our Instagram numbers, like they've grown from the start of the year was this, and it's like it's like grown 4 times over since it was at the
Mhm.
start of the year." And he was like, "Well, if it's growing and you're loving it and it doesn't need to make money, like just keep doing what you're doing and your people will find you. Like if you're worrying about the wrong thing, it's
Mm,
not going to matter." And I was like, "Oh, you're so smart. I'm so glad we had
I love
coffee."
that. I love
Um,
that. This person is very smart. Who is this person?
I won't say their name, but
You
I'll tell you
don't say
later.
it on the
But
podcast.
I'll tell you later. You don't know them,
Okay.
but
Okay.
um,
Very smart.
really
You're very
lovely person.
wise.
He's probably not listening, but if you are listening,
You're wise.
you're wise. Thank you. So this was one topic I wanted to say. I had this conversation with like 2 or 3 different people over the holidays, and it was about comparison in
Mm,
different capacities. Like it was like
mm,
comparison of our bodies, comparison of lifestyle choices,
mm,
and like how we can fall into like thinking like ultimately the grass is always greener. And I know this is like a really cliche thing to say that the grass is always greener, but I'm just going to be totally vulnerable in this conversation. It's going to make me
yeah.
feel very uncomfortable because it involves somebody complimenting me, but it ties into the topic of the story. So we're at this event and someone walks up to me and says like, and there was a few of us talking, and this one person just says like, you have just the most incredible figure. Like you're like it's I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was something like that. Like it wasn't creepy, it was a very friendly
Mhm.
person. It was fine. She's like, honestly, like I just always admire your figure. You have such an incredible figure, blah blah blah. I don't know what she said. It was something like that. And instantly I was like, I'm uncomfortable.
You're like,
I need to
oh.
get out of this conversation. And she's like, sorry, I'm a very touchy person. I'm like, the touching is not bothering me. You could touch me more and just talk about the weather. I don't care that you're touching me. It's the topic of choice. And meanwhile, someone else that was in that conversation who was also adding into that part of the conversation is someone that I look at and I think that people probably assume I should look more like that person. Do you know what I mean? You are
No,
nod.
what?
Like so like
You
one of the people saying this to me that you have a desirable figure. I wish I had your figure. You have a great body essentially.
Mhm.
Which just I just want people to know like that makes me very uncomfortable to say. But that's what was being said to me. And maybe not the I wish I had your body, but like that kind of mindset. And I was that same person that was saying that to me, I've had those exact same thoughts about their body. Like I
Whoa.
literally look at that person and I thought I would look better if I looked more like that person. Um, and
Oh
so
my
me
gosh.
later on, me and that person had a text conversation about that specifically. I didn't bring it up in the group, but brought that up, and we had this conversation about the grass is always greener, and like I know some of the struggles that that person goes on with their body, and so it's like I know that there's a trade-off for those
Mhm,
things, and I should say a sacrifice really for
mhm,
those things. It's a lot, and so but it's like we see people and like I've had other conversations of that in the year where people have said like no, like I look at you and I would love to have that part of your body, and I'm like, dude, I take that part of my body and I wish I had that part of your body, and it's so wild how we just like we can get so caught up in um thinking that we're bad and like people are probably judging us and thinking that we should be different, look different,
mhm,
whatever. And ultimately, and then really lots of people are looking at you, admiring you instead of the
mhm.
opposite, you know? And so I
Totally.
had the conversation specifically about bodies over the holidays. And then
Mhm,
I also had that same conversation about like houses, cars, lifestyle choices, how many kids you have. This was with two
mhm,
different people, how many kids you have, all of that kind of stuff. And it's like, one person who's just like really struggling to figure out what actually is important to them right now, and they're trying to figure out the balance of that. And then someone else who's really confident in those choices, but still questions whether they're the right choices. And
mhm,
both of those people are people that I would look at and in my own head, I would think that they look at me and think that I'm doing life wrong and I should live more like
mhm,
them. Do you know
mhm.
what I mean? Does that make
Yes, I
sense?
do.
Oh
Yes,
man,
it does make sense.
they
It
were
does
great
make
and
sense.
yeah, they were just good conversations. And I want to say this because I just think this also ties into the other thing I texted you about, which was like I have literally had to log off social media. Like I've jumped
Mhm,
on to do my highlight thing and I've jumped on to do a couple quick things on social
mhm,
media. But with this last 2 weeks of the year and the first week of January,
mhm,
I went on earlier this week and or earlier last week, and I realized I was like, I can't be on here right now because
mhm,
everyone is doing their like 2024 wrap ups, their like
mhm,
photo binges and reels of like
mhm,
all of the things they did this year. And even though I know that I did awesome things this year,
mhm.
I watch someone else's highlight reel and the things that they did, it instantly makes me be like, ah, my life sucks. I didn't do all those things.
God, isn't that wild that it does that to us?
Yeah,
I think I just to validate you, and I know that's not what you're looking for, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think that it is so normal.
totally.
It's so normal. And I think it's like something that the next generation coming up behind us is going to have to get really freaking good at because it is in their face all the time. Like we
Mhm.
know what it's like to not have this. And it's weird because we're the last generation that knows the difference, right?
Of like not being able to see it versus being able to see
Of
it.
like life before social media and life with social media. We're the
Mm,
last generation that will remember what it was like to live without it not even being an option.
yeah.
And like it is, I think that it's so normal, and I think it is it's a negative side effect from all of the social media, which
Hmm.
sucks. And I think it's such a normal um it's such a normal human nature thing.
Hmm.
Like, and social media just puts that on speed. Like social media has just amplified it by umpteenth degree,
Hmm.
where it used to be when I went into like let's take the 90s when I would go to my girlfriend's house for dinner, and their house was freaking perfect, and they had this giant house, and they had all of the new colors and all of the new furniture, and their decor was perfect, and her bedroom was something that I would just absolutely have like loved to have, and they looked like they had this perfect life. And and I had that feeling going into her house, where that used to be what you had to do to get that feeling. You had to go to their house and be in their vicinity to do that. Where now it is thrown at you all the time. And by the way, her life wasn't perfect. Now we talk as adults and we hear stories, and I'm like, oh my God, that's what was going on in there? Like, freaking, I take it back. I like my half developed basement and my one bathroom, my wacky cow print everything all over the house. I'll take it. I will take it.
Hmm.
Because like you just don't know. You just don't know what's going on. And social media has amplified that so much. And I'm not shaming anybody for doing the wrap up video, because
Totally. Yeah,
it
no.
feels good. Do it. It feels great to do that. But if you can't, like, I think it's great that you know that about yourself. If you can't and it makes you feel shitty, log off.
Hmm.
Log off. Like, go. Yep, absolutely. Do what you need to do and hightail it on out of there.
Yeah.
I think, like, it's going to trigger you to feel like that. I don't know what the answer is to not feel like that, other than pull
Yeah.
back.
No, it's true. Like I honestly, if we didn't have the podcast, I would have logged off of social media and stopped using it
Mm.
forever ago. I think there's a lovely part of
Sorry.
it, and I wish I could just take the lovely part and ignore
Hmm.
the that. But
Hmm.
I really struggle. I
Tricky.
really struggle with it. I don't think everybody does, but I think most people do.
I think
And
it's a struggle, and I think I don't really know all the answers. I don't really know, except that it amplifies everything. And I think that I come and go in waves too. Like I've gone through times where I'm like, oh shit, I just spent way too much time doing, like, what was I just doing? I could have been doing so much more. And I just was like, and then I go through waves where like I'm really inconsistent with it. Because I go through waves where I need to just take a step back too.
mhm,
And it's tricky because it's like it's really hard to, like, you have to first identify what is bothering you. And that's tricky. Sometimes you don't even know. It's like, oh right, it's the social media. Shit.
mhm.
Right? And but there is all the lovely things too. So like finding that balance and finding, I think it's so normal, and I think it's so I say good for you for knowing, like, this time of year is hard for me to do this, so I have to kind of take it. So I think it's great.
I don't think I knew
It's
it
great to do
until
that.
it happened. I logged on in the middle
Hmm.
of the night and this was like a couple weeks ago. I logged on in the
Hmm.
middle of the night, saw two different people do their highlight things, and I
Hmm.
instantly felt shitty. And I had to be like, "You did awesome stuff this year. You went on a 5 week
Yes.
trip around the States with your kids and like
Hell yeah.
other things." And I had to just be like, "Nope, close it. I'm done. I
Yeah.
can't. Nope. I have
Why does
to."
it do that to us? Like, why do we naturally do that?
I don't know
I
because
don't know what the answer to that is.
we're
Like,
naturally competitive.
yeah, I
Survival of
guess,
the
hey.
fittest. I mean, each have our own definition of what's the fittest.
Yeah, I guess,
You know,
hey.
doesn't necessarily mean physically fit
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. Because
But
I do it too. I absolutely do it too. Like, you just like you see things and you think, oh, I want that perfection too. But you really have to check yourself and go like, at what cost? Because everything requires a sacrifice. And, like if I took my camera, like say this is perfectly decorated, look at the stockings all hung with care. And if I turn it around, you would see I still have boxes out from Christmas. Like there's still crap everywhere. We talked about this before. Like I'm not going to turn this camera around because it's like it would shock you. But like it's not perfect. It's people take a square and you don't know what's beyond that square, you know? And people are doing their highlight reels because those are the things that they're proud of. They're not going to take a picture of the shit parts and highlight the shit parts and put them out there because that doesn't feel good to them either. And they want to feel good, so they're going to put their feel good stuff out.
And to be honest,
Right?
I don't mean this in a judgy way. Whenever I see someone who has a video of them crying, I'm like, what was the thought process there? Like, I don't mean that in a rude way. I just mean like, were you bawling your face off and you're like, I should catch this one video? Like, what were you doing?
Oh my gosh, I'm laughing because there's this girl on Instagram. On Instagram, I have to send her to you. Now I'm gonna have to send you this reel because she stitches videos and she'll like stitch the most ridiculous video. Like she stitched this one video of this girl, and I'm not judging that she's having a full breakdown because like life is fucking hard, and I don't know what she was going through, but she had this full like fall on the floor breakdown, and then it cuts out, and there's this girl, and she goes, "But I'm just saying, you had to set up your phone first, before you had the fall." So, and her reactions are just the best. Like, I just love her reactions. She reacted to one the other day. It was like these guys. And at first, like it came through my feed, and at first I was like, what is going on with my algorithm? Like, what's happening? It was all these like massively buff dudes, all like
I know what's going on with your algorithm, Melissa. I know. Just kidding. Just kidding.
all lined up in a swimming pool. And one by one, they like each like come up like Ariel out of the water and like dry hump the side of the pool one by one. And then she pops and I'm like, what's going on with my algorithm? And then she pops up. I'm like, oh, thank God. And she pops up. She's like, I'm just saying, we used to solve problems and we used to build stuff together. And now not only have you decided you're going to make a video of yourself dry humping a swimming pool, but you're doing it together, you know? And I was like, it's so funny. Like there was like 14 guys in a row, like all to make a video of what?
That's what I mean. I don't know how people in any situation in life
Getting
suddenly
hot.
go, I need a video of this. Like whenever they're like cooking dinner, I'm like, how did you remember to take a video of yourself cooking dinner? How did you decide that you should take a video of yourself crying? How did you just
I always
I don't
think
know.
about like, oh, I should do a video of that. That'd be cool. And then I do it, and then I'm like, well,
I
I
didn't
guess
take
I didn't. Oh my God.
Anyways,
Not
so welcome
anyway.
to the Happy New Year. That was our starting, and that was, do you know what we're gonna do? I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna do now. Me and Melissa
Tell
have
me.
this, me and Melissa, not right now, but I'm telling the people that are gonna
Oh,
listen this
you're
far.
telling me.
Yeah, yeah,
Tell me.
not you,
Tell me all the things.
We want to start this thing that we haven't done yet, but we want to do it. And we're gonna jump on TikTok, and basically the plan is that we'll text each other and be like, I have a rant. Do you have a rant? Let's jump. I'm free for 20 minutes or whatever, 10 minutes. And they're gonna be like live, however many minutes they end up being TikTok things that just go. I don't
Love
know
it.
when they're gonna happen or how often they're gonna happen. But now that we're out of the holiday chaos,
Mhm.
it's a plan, and we're gonna have fun with that. So
I love it.
yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
That's all I was gonna say there.
I love it. Do you have something down your shirt?
Oh, I just realized a part of my necklace was bent.
Oh,
Sorry.
I think you
I
were
was
like,
like, what is sticking? I'm gonna put this on. It's like,
Oh.
what is poking me? But we were also talking about, we were having a conversation in stories about, I was talking in stories about anxiety. And Melissa was like, can we talk about that a bit tonight? So let's touch on it. Let's see what happens. I started it because I know I've and had my own anxieties, have, so on and so forth, my own. And I wanted to talk to other people about theirs because I feel like I'm no specialist. But I think that many people struggle with it and we all think we're crazy, especially if we have someone in our life who doesn't battle
Believe in
with
it.
it in any way, shape, or form. And yeah, we just wanted to talk about it a little bit and we'll just dive into that conversation a little bit more.
Yeah.
Melissa, I don't know if you had a direction that you wanted to go with that.
Oh, I just thought, the stories I loved it. And
I
I thought,
stopped.
oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say I stopped doing it because I was watching how many people were tuning into our stories and it was getting fewer and fewer. So I felt like people stopped giving a shit.
I just thought it would be good to talk about it a little bit because it is such a big topic. And I thought, hey, like I love talking about this in stories, and I love that we're talking about it in stories. And I just thought, let's talk about it here too, because we both we both have anxiety. Can I just say that out loud? We both have had our stuff with it, and I think, a lot of people have it on varying degrees and for different reasons. And um, yeah. How are you doing with yours? How did December go? Do you want to talk about that?
It's fine actually. It doesn't cause me anxiety anymore. It just I have random emotional moments, if you will. Um and I'm taking that out by posting on my personals page about things.
Your posts are
Um
lovely.
because I like, I think I said this in stories, I can't remember, but like I had anxiety growing up. I
Hmm.
didn't know it was anxiety
Hmm.
and learned to manage it in my teenage years and was perfectly fine all through my 20s. Like I wouldn't I would say I had anxiety thoughts, but no emotions,
Hmm.
all the way from like 18 to 32.
Hmm.
Like there was all the thoughts there, but there was zero emotions attached to them. I had fully chilled out the emotions,
Detached from that.
detached
Hmm.
from it. Yeah, yeah. And and then when everything happened with Theo, it came back, obviously. And that's when I realized, oh shit, I've had these feelings before
Hmm.
when I was a kid.
Hmm.
That's anxiety. I didn't know that.
Wow.
Um, and I put it together and then I realized that, and then I had to be like, okay, I got control of it then.
Hmm.
Let's figure out how to get control of it now. And I think there's different levels of anxiety. Like if
Oh
you
yeah.
have anxiety of like being in large crowds, for an
Hmm.
example,
Hmm.
like that's something that you can slowly immerse yourself in and help control that anxiety. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
if you commit to going to a big event and like just the thought of going is giving you anxiety, like just take one small step to get you there. Like
Hmm.
maybe you just get dressed for the event, but you don't go.
Hmm.
And then the next time you get dressed and you get in your car, but you don't go anywhere.
Hmm.
And the next time you get dressed, you get in your car, you drive halfway there, but you don't go. Like, you can do like exposure
Yeah.
therapy ultimately to
Hmm.
get yourself more comfortable with
Absolutely.
these sorts of things. But there's other types of anxiety that you can't. You can't like if you have anxiety worrying about your spouse cheating on you, like you
Yeah.
can do everything you want to believe to teach yourself and remind yourself that your spouse loves you and have a healthy relationship and have open communication about that. But um that's not going to necessarily, it's going to
Mhm.
make you feel more loved and comfortable and it might decrease the anxiety, but you can't do exposure therapy to that.
And ultimately, that's not healing the actual root of that anxiety. It's almost putting a band-aid on it,
Hmm.
right? Because that's not actually healing the root of it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
But
there's
yeah,
something else going on there.
yeah, for sure. But you're absolutely right. Let me ask you this. How does it how does it manifest for you? Like what does anxiety look like for you? When you're starting to feel super anxious, what does that look like for you?
good
Does that make
question.
sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I can't. My therapist has asked me this. How does that feel? How are you feeling? Okay, let's just backtrack
What
on the
does it
fact that
look like?
I know, I'm getting there.
Oh.
But I'm like, I just can't tell you how it feels like because I don't fucking know.
Hmm.
I'm an Enneagram 5. I don't know how I feel when I'm feeling it. I don't know till later. But
I really need to look into that more.
I just love referring to it because it's comical to me. I'm not using it as an excuse. It's just
No,
really funny.
no, I know.
Um, what does it look like? Like, it depends on what it is.
Mhm,
Like when we were, when I was, there's a couple examples I can think of. So like one was when we were flying to Vietnam,
mhm,
and I can't remember if it was on the way home or the way back, but either way, I think it was on the way home. I was on this plane. There was a woman sitting next to me, and I'm on a big plane, big plane. Like it has
mhm,
like the 3 rows or whatever, right? And or like like the three and then the five and then the three kind of thing. And I'm kind of in the middle. So there's like the emergency exits right there. And it's like a 12 and a half hour flight. So people are out of their seats. People get up and stand and move and stuff. And there's these teenagers, like probably 16, 17-year-olds, standing at the doors, the emergency exit doors. And one of the girls is just casually leaning on the door, like holding onto that handle that you have to pull yeah, that's exactly that you have to pull to open the door. And she's standing there. I'm like, fucking bitch is gonna open the plane. She's gonna open the plane. I'm like, and I for like probably 20 minutes, I said they're by myself. Well, I wasn't by myself. There's people there, but in my head being like, just like just like I can't close my eyes. I can't look away. I have to intently stare at this woman just in case she starts pulling on that handle. I gotta jump up and stop her. Like
Oh my God.
that was my brain. And for 20 minutes, I'm sitting there and she doesn't move. She doesn't leave this spot. And then more of them gather. And then there was someone in the way and I couldn't see her hand anymore. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to open the plane. They're going to open the plane. And I'm not thinking this in like a terroristic kind of way, just kind of like an innocent, like, please, because it's that easy to open the door. And I'm like, I'm fully well aware it is not that easy to open the plane door. I'm fully
Oh
well
my
aware of
God.
this. Okay.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I'm like, finally, I say to the woman next to me, and I was like, I, I can't handle these people. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I was like, I can't handle these people standing there. Like, I feel like somebody needs to tell them to sit down. They're going to open the plane door or something like that. And she was laughs at me. She's like, they're not going to open the door. How are you so confident? You don't know. You don't know. You just don't know. And then finally, so I was exhausted. I had just been traveling. So I had just flown to Vietnam by myself with a 18-month-old on 3 long flights. And I was on my way home. Maybe I was actually just on my way to Paris. Doesn't matter. It was a long flight. And so a long trip. I'm tired, overtired, kid by myself. And I just wanted to sleep. But I just like was like, I will stop
The
you from opening
fate
this
of
door.
everyone on this airplane
It's
relies
in
on
my
me.
hands. Is 100% in my hands. And so like obviously there was like I don't know how to explain it. I was like tense. I was very tense, I will say. And then when those kids finally sat down, I was like, oh, thank God. I think I fell asleep like
You
right
just
after.
pass out for the rest of the flight. Now I can
No,
sleep.
I'm pretty sure Theo was sleeping the whole time and then he woke
Oh
up
my
when
God.
they moved. So I was
Of
awake.
course.
So like that's one example. And then like with everything Theo related, that's what really brought up my anxiety again. It
Mhm,
was like for me, like it was uh, in different degrees, constantly checking on him to make sure he was okay. It started off with checking on him every minute and a half,
mhm.
and progressed to only right before I go to bed. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
answers your question. What about you? What
absolutely.
does it look like for you?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry for my eyes watering.
You
I'm
should be sorry.
my eyes water. I don't know what my eyes water all the time. Like if I laugh hard, my eyes water. If I smile hard, my eyes water. If I yawn, if I sneeze, if I my eyes just water all the time. So I'm not crying. I'm just my eyes are just watering. Anyways, what it looks like for me is it kind of comes out in a couple different ways. One, I turtle. So like I just like I can't it's hard to explain, but like everything overwhelms me. So like if I'm in a real anxious time, that's when my inbox is filling up and I can't seem to even open them. that's when I have a hard time like being social and like I kind of just I turtle.
Mm.
I just kind of go into survival mode, I guess, and just kind of do the things that um need to happen and I try to be but and then the other thing that happens is I can get easily irritable. So like I'm not yelling at my kids, but it's like, Mom, what? Sorry. Yes, dear. Like that kind of like short, like, why? Or like I get hypervigilance. Have you heard of
Mm.
this? Hypervigilance?
Yeah.
Living in a state of hypervigilance. That's another way it comes out for me. So like living in a state of hypervigilance means you hear everything. So like any bit of like tapping or like a truck going by or any somebody's phone going off next door, like not that everything bothers me, but I hear it all. It all is going in and I hear it all on the same level. So that's tough with kids that are busy because on those times where I am more anxious, it's like there's so many sounds happening.
Mm.
Like I hear everything.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
laughing because the other day, because I don't know if I said this to you, but I was laughing the other day because I was trying to I was having one of these moments where I was just feeling a little like little anxious, little like I'm hearing all the sounds. And I also have a child with ADHD. And I'm like, he's upstairs and I'm downstairs in the kitchen and he's upstairs and he's got his feet on a stool and he's rocking the stool and it's like tick, 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 tick. And at the same time he is having a really hard time controlling the volume of his voice. So it's not like he's being rude or mean or nasty. It's like everything comes out like, Mom, can I have a glass of milk, please? Like everything's coming out. And I'm like, oh. And I was laughing about one day I'm gonna be able to write a book on how to um regulate your nervous system whilst raising an ADHD child. It's a whole other ballgame when you have this constant thing going on. So, anyways, that's how it comes out for me. Mostly the turtle thing. That's
Yeah.
mostly I've
Yeah.
noticed that's mostly what happens.
That's fair.
So,
I will
yeah.
say the other thing I can add in is if I get overtired, it's
Mhm.
like impossible to control.
Yeah.
If I wake up in the middle of the
Yes.
night, um, it's impossible to control the anxiety. It's like I have to distract my brain with a sleep meditation or a movie or something. Like I
Friends.
can't. Whereas I think I used to be better at that. Although I will say before Theo stuff happened, I did sleep, but it was so funny. We were out today with someone, and I've talked to this person before about having anxiety, and they're like, "Yeah, me too." And they'll like say like, "Oh, these are all the thoughts that go through my brain. This is definitely what happened." And then their spouse will laugh at them because they're like, "You're so crazy." I'm like, "Same, same, same. I do the same. I do the exact same." Um, like the minute somebody doesn't text back fast enough, they're definitely
Oh,
dead. They're definitely dead.
definitely.
Definitely dead. But that's the other thing. Okay, I'll go back, circle back to what I was gonna say. That's the other thing is with all these horrible thoughts, sometimes I'm like, am I willing these bad things into the
Oh,
world
I do the same
that
thing.
like cross my mind? Because
Oh my God, I hate that.
I think a lot of bad things, and it's like not intentionally, it's this anxiety, it's like preparing me for these bad things to happen. And I mean like there's
Oh,
no preparation. It's just like then you're not the emotion is still horrible. It's just
mm,
the situation's not a surprise, if that makes
oh,
sense.
totally.
It doesn't take away a emotional preparation. It just takes away physical preparation
Mm,
or adds to physical preparation, if that makes sense.
hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Anyways.
Do you want to hear a funny one?
Hmm.
I can't believe I'm about to say this in a minute. Because it's a funny one.
Oh, I
Um,
remember what I was gonna say, but
oh, go, Kate, go.
no,
No, go.
all I was gonna say is like before my anxiety reared its head again after everything happened with Theo, when my middle son was born, we were living in a different house, and it was like a split level. Is that
Hmm.
what it's called? Like it was
Hmm.
a
Yep.
big house. Yeah. You walk in the front door and you go up one way or down the other. And it was COVID. So fuck, this is so funny. He woke up a lot in the night. He was on medication that like he could not he every 2 or 3 hours he was up in the middle of the night. So I was up a lot and I couldn't sleep train him past it. The medication, I just had to wait till he was done his medication at 15 months old to be able to get him to sleep through the night. Anyway, so for that whole period of time, I was up in the middle of the night to help him get back to sleep or whatever. And I remember when we were living in this house, whenever I was up in the middle of the night, if I walked from his room to the kitchen for whatever reason, I was convinced there was definitely zombies outside. I had a whole plan for how we were going to survive in this house if a zombie apocalypse came. Like so much so that sometimes I would walk to the front bay window and peek out just to make sure there was no zombies outside. Only in the middle of the night though, because I was sleep deprived. But during the day it was fine. During the day
Yeah,
it was
of course.
perfectly fine. Was not worried about zombie apocalypse. But in the middle of the night, I was like full on. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. If a zombie apocalypse happens, there's lots of wood in the shed, in the garage. We're gonna board up the windows really quick. We're gonna cut off those stairs right over here. And we're gonna cut off these stairs. We've got a ladder in the basement because if we cut off the stairs, the zombies can get in the house, but they can't get up the stairs. So it's fine. We just have to break down the stairs and we'll be safe up here. I don't know how we're getting food yet. We'll have a ladder. We'll figure it out after, but they won't get in. I had a plan. Had a plan. But I wasn't emotional about it. I just had a plan. This is a true story, Melissa. I wish I was lying. I would tell AJ about my zombie apocalypse plan in that house. I don't have one for this house. I don't have one for this house. So.
That's a good sign that you're doing much better. I remember the tears thing. Oh my God. I cannot. And I think the reason I'm laughing so hard is like, you are so pragmatic and you're so, I have never in a million years, if you would have put Sammi plans out what to do in a zombie apocalypse on my bingo card, I would have never.
Any natural disaster I have mostly planned for it somewhere in my
That
life.
is not a natural disaster.
It sort of is.
Zombies are a natural disaster.
I think it came up because there was theory that like I remember hearing some random theory that like COVID was going to cause like there was some situation where someone had a COVID shot and they came back to life. It was some random story. And then also we were watching The Walking Dead to kill time during it.
Why?
So,
Sammi.
I'd never seen it. And we had so much time to watch TV during COVID. We weren't in our house. We couldn't do home projects. We were staying in someone else's house.
There's a lot of Hallmark movies out there. Just teasing. Oh my
exciting.
God.
So anyways, I have a plan if I'm living in that house during a zombie apocalypse.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I love it. I love that you just shared that.
Yeah, you were gonna say something.
Mine is nowhere. Zombie apocalypse.
I'll make sure I put that out for the reel to promote this episode.
Sammi plans out a zombie apocalypse. Oh my God. And then were you worried that you were like manifesting a zombie apocalypse?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Mine is nowhere near zombie apocalypse. But I have these sometimes where like, if you were to take a scan of my brain when something is going on, it's like there's like one day I was like, oh my gosh, my tongue really hurts. What the heck is that? It's a little bit swollen there. My God, oh my God, what if it's cancer? What if
tongue cancer?
What if it's cancer? They're gonna have to cut my tongue out. And then meanwhile, somebody's going, Mom, they're gonna have to cut my tongue out, and then I'm not gonna be able to talk to my kids. They're never gonna hear my voice again. And I'm like, oh my God, now I'm manifesting it. Now it's definitely gonna happen because I'm thinking, oh my God, wait, I made soup yesterday. Oh shit, I burnt my tongue. Okay, we're fine. Fine. We're fine. It's okay. Nobody's cutting off my tongue. Like what? But then then this whole thing goes through my body. Manifesting it. How do I get it out of manifesting it? Oh my gosh, that's the whole thing.
Same. Anytime I buy something off Facebook Marketplace and I send AJ, I'm like, please text me to tell me you're alive when you get there and then when you're leaving, please.
Right.
And if he doesn't respond fast enough, I'm like, he's dead. He's definitely dead.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, and yet you keep sending me to get things off of Marketplace.
And yes.
You think I'm gonna die every time and you keep sending me.
But you keep sending me.
Did you tell me something?
Oh my gosh. The other day I missed a phone call from Chantel's parents when I was at work, which I'm sorry I haven't called you back yet. I will. But I looked down and I was like, it was there. I don't have their number saved into my phone because it's one of these phone numbers that I just remember. I dialed it so much when we were kids that so it's just like in my memory. And I look, I'm like, Edmonton. Oh yeah, okay, I know that number. I'm like, wait, why are they calling me? That's weird. In the middle of it, and I'm at work. So immediately I text and tell him like, hey, you okay? She's like, yeah, what's going on? I'm like, oh, I just missed a call from your parents, making sure you're not dead. Hey, the hell is wrong with me?
I feel you. Same,
Oh my
same, girl.
God. So we're
Same,
talking
same.
about the humorous side of it, but it really does take, and I'm still learning the tools. I mean, like, I don't know. It really is a serious thing. Like it can really wreak havoc on your life if you don't get control of it. It's really I'm glad that people are talking about it now because now there's a name for it. Did you see the second Inside Out?
Yes,
Did they not do such a good job of depicting the anxiety?
they did. I was very worried about it, but they did a good job.
Like I didn't know it was I did a bad mom job on looking into that movie before it happened. Normally I look all the way into it to make sure. And it started happening, and I was like, "Oh God, I hope this is gonna be okay." I was really impressed with how they depicted it.
Hmm.
Like, nailed it.
Same. Mhm.
Why don't you share one tool that has been helpful with your anxiety?
Oh shit.
Oh shit. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you
Would
go.
that help you?
Mhm.
Okay, one tool that I learned from, I can't remember if it was, I think it was my therapist, and it's been so super helpful, is to sit on the floor. And if you can get to the ground, it's even better. But like in the moment, you sit on the floor and you take some deep breaths, and it's like it sounds a little woo-woo, but it actually is um really helpful because it just like takes you down to like grounds you, pun intended.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it sounds like a little bit of a silly thing, but it actually has been really helpful for me when I'm starting to feel panicky. I sit on the floor for a little while and just take some breaths and sitting on the floor. And if I can go sit on the grass outside, I do it. And it actually kind of starts bringing things down. And the other thing is when I was working with the coach that I worked with years ago, um, one of her things that she talked about was to actually like when you have those thoughts that you can like they're gonna cut off my tongue, is to actually instead of being like, nope, don't have that thought, don't have that thought, to actually acknowledge it, like, huh, yep, there's that thought. It's logically not, probably not, but there's
Mhm.
that thought. It's there. And now we can shut the door on it. And now we can move on.
Yeah.
Like acknowledge it and then go to a different space.
Hmm.
And that for a while was really helpful for me too.
When you were talking about the sitting on the ground thing, it reminded me of something that I'll circle back to in a second. But I know that growing up, journaling helped me a lot because I don't remember having anxiety through the day. It was at the end of the day, it would all pile. And it was like anxiety about things I'd done that day, things I'd said that day, things that I should have said better, things that I should have done better, things that
Mhm.
I could do tomorrow, how I could fix what I didn't do right today, tomorrow, like all of that. And I couldn't jumble it. And that started in like grade six at least,
Mhm.
maybe earlier. But in grade six is when I started. I remember lying in bed one night and a friend had given me a journal for my birthday that year. And I just remember lying, or whatever, one year, maybe it was grade five, she gave me the journal. In grade six, I started journaling. But I remember I wrote it all out. I wrote out all the thoughts of the things that were running through my head, and I like fell asleep almost immediately. And so I started doing that every night. If I laid in bed and I didn't start getting
Wow.
sleepy almost immediately, I would just start writing out like with no solution, no nothing, like
Just
this
right.
happened with so and so today. This is what I thought I should have done. This is what I did. This is what I wish I did better. This is what I'm thinking about doing tomorrow. And I would just write until I had no more thoughts, and then I could go right to sleep. And sometimes it was 5 minutes, sometimes it was
Whoa.
like 30 minutes. And I literally did that almost every single night from grade six until I was like 21,
Whoa.
like
Do you
the
still
whole
have
time.
them?
Like one or two of them. I
That's
used to have them,
amazing.
but there was a lot of them. And I was like, I'm never going to go through these. These are just
That's
fire
amazing.
burner.
That's
Um,
amazing.
so that really helped me.
Cool. Hmm.
And I even to this day, like I do that to a different extent. Like if I have something on my mind, um, anxiety or not, like I just have to type it out on my phone now instead. And then
Cool.
sometimes I completely forget that it was there. I just needed to get it out of my brain and onto
There you go.
physical paper. If my husband's
Cool.
asleep, if my husband's awake, I just tell him, and then it's usually gone. But
He's your journal now.
yeah.
I love
Um,
it.
but I remember,
Awesome.
so that was one thing, and I guess it still technically does help me. Um,
Mhm.
But I remember when we were in the hospital with my son,
Mm.
and so when we were in the NICU with him the first time, a social worker came around and she was like, "How are you guys doing with the NICU? Like, how are you feeling? This can be really hard." She wasn't that chipper. She was emotionally appropriate or
Hmm.
tone appropriate.
Yeah.
And we were like, actually, like, we're really good. Like, this isn't bothering us. We're totally fine. And then she was like, "Okay, well, if you need me, like, here's my name, here's my card, just contact me." And then when there was a code blue called in the NICU, that's when I felt emotions, but it wasn't about that moment. It was about
Hmm.
my other son who was a code blue at birth.
Hmm.
Um, and so she talked to me about that, whatever, it was fine. Moved along. We were back in the hospital. Um, they sent an initial social worker to me, and then she was just there for like our admission day. Ooh, oh, felt some emotions there.
Whoa.
Um, and sorry, I'm getting back to a couple of things that you're saying.
Hmm.
One was about social worker and one was about the crazy thoughts.
Okay.
So and then a second social worker was sent when we were up in general admissions. Actually, you know what? One was never sent to me when we were in the ICU, actually. But
Hmm.
once we were in general admissions, one came. And I remember she was clearly very new. And I'm not
Hmm.
judging that she's probably going to help someone. And she was trying to talk to me about how to manage these emotions. And one of the things that she said to me was like to push against a wall, like just
Hmm.
and kind of like you're saying, like sit down
Interesting.
and it's kind of like what Zara was talking about in like kids have this physical emotion
Yeah.
built up, and if we don't let them get it out, they'll just hold
Yeah.
on to it. And she told me this, and I remember she was like, and she said, it sounds like it might work, but just try it. And I remember being like, I don't have anxiety about things that might happen. I have anxiety about a thing that
Mm.
fucking did happen.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like that ties into those like thoughts of like, is a zombie apocalypse likely to happen? No. But if
Mm.
it does happen, my anxiety about a zombie apocalypse is going to go fucking high because
Yeah.
I was worried about something that in my brain was very
Hmm.
unlikely, and then it
And it
happened and
happened.
it manifested. And
Hmm.
so I remember when my middle son was a baby, this was in our house before the zombie apocalypse
Hmm.
house. So he would have been like under 6 months old. And I was in his room and I was nursing him. And I remember I had read a thing about babies choking on milk. And
Oh my
I was
God.
like, oh, what would I do if my baby choked on my milk? Like, what would I do? And I was like, well, I literally played this through in my brain. Like, I played it through so much that it's like it happened because I have a video of it in my head. Like, it's like a
Oh
movie.
my
And
God.
I was like, I could picture myself in his room. I got up off of the chair and I laid him on the ground and I started doing CPR on him because it needed to be done because he choked on milk. There was no emotion about that thought. I just thought, what would I do? And so
Wow.
literally ran through the process of what I would need to do if my child was not breathing as an infant and did CPR on them in my
Oh my
head.
God.
That would have probably been in like November, December-ish of that year. Fast forward, and I literally had to do that on my child in a different room. So
My
like,
gut just sank.
mm,
Holy
so
shit.
I have a really hard time now because of that, because something that I did that mental anxiety, this will never happen, but I'm going to prepare myself for it just in case moment because I did that and then it happened. Now I have a really hard time doing that mental, that's
Oh
not
my
likely to
God.
happen. Do you know what I mean? Whereas
Yeah.
before that happened, I could be like, that's a ridiculous thought. That's not likely going to
Right.
happen. Don't worry about it. Now I have a
Oh my
very, very hard time doing that because I'm
God.
like, happened before, happened before. Can't be too prepared.
Oh my God.
So.
It's like it took the innocence of that away from you.
Yeah. And like there's gonna be people out there who'd be like, well, then you manifested that. You believed that it was gonna happen, and so it did. You know what? Maybe if I can did, but there's nothing I can do about it now.
Sorry.
That's
No.
what happened. There's people who would say that.
No. No.
And so, anyways, so like you were talking about that thought thing, as like that used to work for me. It used to work for me,
Hmm.
and it doesn't now. It doesn't really now.
Wow. Oh
So,
my gosh. So what do you do now?
uh, I don't know. I I mean the thoughts are still there. I think it's this I think I do the same. It just doesn't work as well. Whereas before I used to be able to like that's a ridiculous thought process. That's not going to
Hmm.
happen and I could just drop it. You know what I mean? Like it
Hmm.
was like a plan
Hmm.
and I had a plan and once we were over the bridge it was just gone, didn't matter. And now I can be like I can say to myself the likelihood of that is pretty slim. But it doesn't remove the entirety of it, whereas before it did, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah, it does make
I think
sense
so.
for
I do the
sure.
same thing. It just doesn't work as
Total
well.
sense.
It just doesn't work as well.
That's a shits.
Oh, that's nice hair.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh
So
man,
that's the trick is when
that's
people are like,
hard.
have that talk to yourself. I'm like, oh, it does not
Can't
work.
do it. That's wild.
Mm.
Wow. The closest I think I've come to that. I have some of those too. Like I definitely have some of those too. The most clear one to me, like with the visual plan with the videotape,
Yeah.
was like one and only time we ever went on a cruise ship.
Mm.
I knew where land was every time. Like anytime that boat turned around, I'm like, I know which way land is. I know which way I need to start swimming. Like, nope.
I think that there's two types of people too. Like we'll say this and then we'll wrap up because we've been
Yeah,
talking for a while.
for sure.
I was talking to someone else who has anxiety and I brought up like the zombie apocalypse or like any kind of apocalypse. Like, do you think you'd survive? And they were like,
Yeah.
nope, I would die right away. I don't want to live
What?
in that. Yeah. They were like, nope, I just need to die right away. I wouldn't survive in that world and I don't want to raise kids in that world. We would just die right away. And I was like,
Wow.
that's two different types of anxiety.
Mhm.
One that is like, I will fight and I will have a plan. And one that is like, nope,
You
I'm out of
zombies.
here. I'm out of here. I'll join the zombie team. I'm out. I'm out.
Wow.
You know, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess there's
Wow.
got to be different. There's all kinds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
That's our
On
anxiety
the-
and opening
On the
episode.
zombie note.
Enjoy. Enjoy. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. To help support the growth of this podcast, please feel free to leave us a review, follow us on socials, or recommend us to your friends. Your support honestly means the world to us. With love, Sammi and Melissa.